All right, so you've got that Nike earnings report fresh off the virtual press release, and you're probably wondering what it all means, right?
It can feel like every quarter these big companies use a secret language only Wall Street speaks.
Yeah,
But that's what we're here for. This is your no jargon deep dive into what's really going on behind the swoosh. And trust me, this quarter is interesting.
absolutely.
To help us make sense of it all, we've got our expert analyst back.
It's great to be back.
They've been dissecting this thing front to back, and I hear there are some real head scratchers in here.
Oh, there are definitely some surprises for sure.
So before we get lost in the weeds, give us the high-level view. How'd Nike do this quarter? Bottom line.
Well, the top line number is revenues down 10% overall.
10%. That's a pretty big hit, even for a company as massive as Nike.
It is, but here's where it gets weird. Despite that drop, their gross profit margin actually went up.
Wait, hold on. How does that even work? You sell less stuff, but you're making more profit on what you did sell.
Exactly, and that's what makes this report so fascinating. There are several things going on here, some really smart moves by Nike, actually.
Okay, so revenue's down, but profit's up. That's a head scratcher for sure. Let's dig into those revenue numbers a little more. Where are the biggest changes happening? What's catching your eye?
Well, one of the most interesting things here is what's going on with Nike's direct-to-consumer sales, what they call Nike Direct. That whole segment is down 12% this quarter.
12%. Wow. That's a pretty big chunk, especially since Nike's been pushing so hard to get people buying directly from them. What's driving that kind of drop?
It's actually part of a bigger trend we're seeing across the board in retail. During the pandemic, everybody got really used to buying everything online, right? Out of necessity. But now that things are getting back to normal, people are going back to brick-and-mortar stores.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I love the convenience of online shopping, but sometimes you just want to go into the store, try things on, see how it feels.
Exactly. And for a brand like Nike, where the look and feel is such a big part of the appeal, that in-store experience is really important. Now, this doesn't mean that Nike's digital strategy is a failure by any means, but it does raise some questions about how they're going to adapt to this shift in consumer behavior.
It's interesting, though, right? Because even with people going back to stores, there's still a ton of people who love the convenience of online shopping. So that 20% drop in Nike brand digital sales, that's their online platform, right?
Yeah,
That seems like a pretty big deal.
it is. That's definitely something they're going to have to watch closely. The digital space is super competitive, and a drop like that could mean they need to step up their game, make the online experience even better to compete.
So it's almost like they have these two puzzles to solve at the same time.
Right.
Figuring out how to do direct to consumer in this new retail world, and then also how to win in the digital space, which is just getting more and more competitive.
Absolutely, they got their work cut out for them. But speaking of challenges, let's talk about that profit margin for a second. Because how is it possible that their profitability is up when revenue is down?
Yeah, please explain this to me like I'm a shareholder who really needs a good night's sleep. Because right now, I'm picturing a business on shaky ground.
It's not as dire as it sounds. Remember, the report mentioned lower product costs, and they've also cut down on their warehousing and logistics expenses. All of that plays a big role in that higher profit margin.
So even though they're selling less, they're spending less to actually make and ship each item.
Exactly. They're getting leaner and more efficient, and it's showing up in those margins. But there's another piece of this puzzle, and it's a big one. Pricing.
Ah, you're talking about those price hikes Nike rolled out last year, right? I remember that made some headlines.
Exactly. It was a risky move, but it looks like it's paying off, at least for now. By raising prices strategically, they've managed to keep profits up, even with fewer sales.
That's a bold strategy, especially in this economy. Makes you wonder, though, how long can they keep that up? People are definitely feeling the pinch these days. Can they afford to price out some customers, especially if we head into a recession?
$1 million question right there.
Yeah.
The whole thing hinges on finding that sweet spot. Keeping that premium brand image while still making sure their products are accessible enough in a tougher economy.
Sounds like Elliot Hill's got a pretty full plate stepping into the CEO role right now. Big shoes to fill, so to speak.
You could say that. This earnings report, the CEO change, even the fact that they pushed back their investor day, it all points to some big decisions happening behind the scenes at Nike HQ. It could be really interesting to see which direction Hill takes them.
So as we look ahead, what are you watching for? What should our listeners keep an eye on as this story unfolds?
Well, the direct-to-consumer strategy is going to be huge. Do they go all in on digital, maybe try some new tech, make that online experience even slicker? Or
Mm.
do they pump the brakes on that and focus more on those in-store experiences, trying to get people back in the door? That balance is going to be key for them.
And of course, all eyes on Elliott Hill and his vision for the future of Nike. Will he stay the course or shake things up? Only time will tell.
No doubt. This is a pivotal moment for Nike, and what they do next could have ripple effects throughout the entire industry.
Well, there you have it, folks. We've gone way beyond the headlines today, dug into the nitty-gritty of Nike's latest earnings, and uncovered some really interesting trends. It's clear they're facing some headwinds, but also some big opportunities. And as we've seen, sometimes the story behind the numbers is just as important as the numbers themselves. Until next time, keep asking those tough questions, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.